What's going on today, guys? Thank you so much for coming in. Another YouTube Live. We're going to be talking about MSP lead generation today. This is a really important topic and full of vital data if you're going to succeed as an MSP or really in business anywhere. Now, the first thing that I want to do is I want to do an exercise. I want everyone to make sure that they have a piece of paper around them. I want them to pick up that piece of paper. And I want you to write down every reason why your MSP has not and cannot get enough leads. Could be economic reasons, personal reasons, business reasons, emotional reasons. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to do this. Just anything that's gone through your head, I want you to write down. For those of us who are joining, for anyone who's just joining, you're going to write down on a piece of paper any reason that you've encountered this past year as to why you cannot get more leads for your organization. This can be personal reasons, financial reasons, business reasons, anything that's been in your head about why more leads haven't entered your MSP. So again, for anyone joining just now, we're going to start with an exercise. Take a piece of paper, write down any reason why more leads have not come through your MSP, which is why they haven't come in, economic, financial, otherwise. Give you a couple, let's say 15 seconds to get that done. Maybe the economy, it's a hard industry. Agencies have failed you. You don't have the staff to do it. You don't have the time to do it. Now, assuming you're done, I want you to pick up that list, take a look at it, give it a good rip, multiple pieces on your desk, and just drop it on your desk. So the truth is there is no good reason for not generating leads. And of course, it is the most vital thing to your income. The only real reason for lacking lead generation is lack of execution. And you're on this call today because one way or another, you have a failure to execute. And you probably already know that. Underneath a failure to execute is typically a failure to understand. There's typically knowledge gaps. You're ignorant somewhere, which leads into a failure to act on that topic in real life. And most even lead gen companies fail to understand the actual process, structure, flow, know-how of lead generation. Look, it's hard. It's very challenging, particularly for MSPs to create top of the funnel leads. But if you're here today, well done on coming to get more education, because really your MSP will never advance past your personal level of knowledge, competence, control, and responsibility over your own company. And as a matter of fact, one of the best ways to expand your business is personal development, just working on yourself. So today we're going to talk about lead gen, mainly outbound. We're going to cover inbound marketing in a separate YouTube Live. So I'm Alex Boots. I build revenue systems for MSPs. I come in and I embed, I execute, I train your staff to operate the machinery of lead gen. I don't just come into your MSP and then do a couple things and disappear and charge you a high consulting fee. I do things this way. My company's called Resonant Impact Systems because I personally know how challenging it really is to generate a consistent stream of new prospects for an MSP. And I'll tell you, just even over the last year and talking with everyone, nobody says it's easy. But I want others to know how simple at a fundamental level that it really is. I built my own MSP, totally bootstrapped from the ground up during COVID, and I sold a couple years later. I built 800K ARR in monthly recurring revenue contracts for another MSP in under 2 years with no marketing support, no steady stream of inbound leads or referrals. I've trained MSP business development teams to increase their booking rate over 600% following my training. I've coached large SDR teams and scaled out these teams to increase their appointment setting from 10 to 20 a month to 70 to 90 a month. That was quite a game. It was a lot of fun. I have a background in personal counseling, actually in the nonprofit space and personal development space. And I continue to work with my nonprofit to help, revert the drug problem that we have on the planet, improve literacy, help others find happiness, and improve the state of the planet, really one person at a time. So I'm pretty passionate about that stuff. So thanks for being here with me today. Now, roughly 50% of businesses don't make it to year 5, don't make it past year 5. Among MSPs at any given time, according to Service Leadership, which is a ConnectWise MSP benchmarking company, 31% of MSPs at any given time are losing money actively. Another 10 to 15% are barely breaking even. So 50% of MSPs are actually unprofitable. The biggest financial loss, your biggest financial loss, is not in the disbursements or expenses column. It is in the income not generated according to your capacity realm. You have, even if it's just you have a certain capacity to make income. If you're not making your capacity, that differential is your biggest expense. 80% or more of MSPs tell me they have a lead generation problem. And they typically either want one of two things. They want a system that does it for them inside their own MSP, or they want to hire an agency to do it for them. In both cases, there's typically like a lack of appreciation on pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps and just getting it done if it's just you when you don't have the infrastructure to do it. And there's a lot to be said for that. But at the end of the day, your income problems, they all start at the front end of the funnel. You're not communicating enough in every case. You're not getting yourself known enough. Money flows, and for someone to flow you money, they got to know you. They got to know you to flow you. That's actually Grant Cardoneism. Now, some of the problems that MSPs recurringly tell me about lead generation: they don't know how to hire the right outbound person. And really, I would say there's 2, maybe 3 things. One, they don't know how to hire the right outbound person and manage them. 2, they aren't confident on the channels that they should be using and investing in with prospecting. And 3, they've been burned by lead gen agencies or marketing agencies, and they're starving for answers. At its core, MSP lead generation is a sequence of actions, a series of steps, starting from a person who doesn't know anything about you, which is in the marketing category, problem unaware, they don't know your brand, to a person who trusts you enough to book a call and talk with you about their interest in potentially buying your services. So it really is, if you're, using a football analogy, the overall strategy of the game, you got to have the overall strategy on how to win the game. And then you got to have the individual plays that you're going to run throughout the game to get those wins that result in a win. Lead gen is 80% execution and 20% organization. And really, like any plan in lead gen, here's the thing: any plan in lead gen poorly executed is better than not having a plan. So if your game right now is winging it, you're better off writing a plan about how you're going to do cold calling and then executing that plan poorly than you are just hey, let's try a bunch of different things. Let's pop over here, pop over there. Let's try LinkedIn. Let's try Meta. Let's try these different things without really a plan to back it up. Just to speak on telemarketing, I've seen it work at a clip of an individual rep booking 6 to 8, meetings a month purely from cold telemarketing outbound. So this is actually why you need really strong people on your front lines. Now, to talk a bit about prospecting, the first thing I want to talk about is we're talking about organization, the organization of your prospecting, and then the actual tactics and the actual playbook. Now, I'm drawing on my time of when I built my MSP from the ground up, and helping other MSPs expand their own prospecting and revenue. So the thing I typically find is, especially with founder-led MSPs, is MSP owners are they're shying away from lead generation because let's face it, communication is hard. It's vulnerable. It's likely to get a fair share of failures and rejection. It requires effort, determination, resilience. You got to get out of your office. You got to get out of your comfort zone. That mental pressure is often enough to cause people just to kind of shy away from it and look for other solutions. Like, hey, there's got to be someone who can just do this for me. The duties and flow of a lead generation machine are always going to be the same, regardless of whether it's just you or whether you have a team of 5, 6, 7, 8 salespeople. The only difference is when you don't have all those salespeople, you yourself have to take personal responsibility to still do every single part of that machine. One of the things I can say, and this goes back to the beginning of, just people shying away from doing lead generation. There's a lot of psychology there that you can actually talk about. But if you personally have a really hard time with communicating to a lot of people or just getting yourself out there, you just for one reason or another, you can't seem to reach a broad enough amount of people to get enough of an inflow of leads into your business. Do personal development with yourself. There's communication courses out there. There's personal betterment things that you can do. And again, your business will never perform past your own personal competency level. I would say that's the case even if you have a team around you, because ultimately your business is an embodiment of you. So one of the best things that you could do is personally work on yourself in communication, talking to other people, getting yourself comfortable, facing your fear. You could do an entire day's seminar just on that. Now, on the actual organization and MSP of lead generation, if you don't have anyone, the first person you want to hire is definitely a hunter. Now, hunters must absolutely be separate from farmers, also known as account managers. It's pretty fatal to make the hunter also your account manager, because what happens is they just get pulled down the line into all of the customer success and account management of the deals that they're closing. You get into a feast or famine cycle where they stop prospecting. And I actually showed a graph on one of my video shorts, but all it takes really from personal experience over again is 4 weeks of inconsistent prospecting in your MSP, or really probably any service-based business, to then produce an income crash. There's a little bit of a lag, but that crash will come. And that crash will take a lot longer than 4 weeks of prospecting to start to revert it. So the hunters cannot be the account managers. Now at scale, when you have 3, 4, 5, 6 sales staff, what normally happens is that hunter role separates into appointment setters, SDRs, and closers. And that's totally fine. The SDRs are doing the appointment setting, the closers are receiving the calls, getting the tags on the call, and closing the deals. But that still doesn't relieve the closers of the responsibility to go get their own prospects. Now, like, what makes a good outbound hunter? I actually was at IT Nation, and there was a really good seminar from Chartech. It's either Cartech or Chartech, but it's a sales agency that caters to MSPs. And he went over a lot of things I really agree with based on like the DISC personality profile. But I have friends that are hunters. I would consider myself a bit of a hunter. The biggest earmark of someone who's going to exceed in an outbound role is their ability to control. So, those people who come into a room, they tend to kind of dominate conversations. Maybe they even rub people the wrong way sometimes, but what they always do is they typically control conversations, they control outcomes. That's a high control person. In an outbound role, is an absolute necessity that that person must be high control. And one way to test it in your interview process is watch how they control you. If you feel like they try to steer the conversation and take control, that's a good sign. Now, coupled with control is an aggressiveness and an ambition. So the aggressiveness is their necessity level. They have a strong urge. They're not happy where they're at. If you go hire an account manager who's making $110,000 a year, and you're, being a hunter in your MSP, and their background is being an account manager, I've seen those guys completely flop in this role. I've seen people paid $2,000 a month do better than people making $10,000 a month. And the difference is one has aggressiveness and ambition, and the other is just kind of fat and happy where they're at. You cannot have that in the outbound role. They have to be excellent communicators above anything else. They have to be likable. They have to be friendly. If their communication is excessively in one direction, that's not always good. So somebody who talks way the hell too much, just as somebody who doesn't talk enough, you want to have a good balance in those traits. Also people who are future entrepreneurs, in my opinion, they make good outbound roles, because when I was a business development rep, I basically was building a business within that business. I was building my own systems, building my own machine, taking ownership for my area, taking initiative. And that's definitely the kind of person that you're going to want in the outbound role. Now over to channels. If there's something to take away from the call today, there is one prospecting channel that if you're not doing it, you're missing out. And I think it will always be one of the strongest forms. I don't think it'll ever go away. And that is canvassing, in-person canvassing. You might like roll your eyes a little bit, but that's probably because you really haven't done it at scale. Because it works. The true test of anything is, does it work? I built my MSP from the ground up with canvassing. As a matter of fact, I did a business development boot camp with an MSP just in December. And I took the reps out canvassing. On the first session of canvassing, I found a lead with the rep. And that lead is, I just talked to the head business development guy. That thing's closing between 5 to 10K monthly recurring revenue. So how much did it cost to get in your car, drive 7 minutes, and go canvass an office? I mean, dude, like with the time of the BDR plus the drive, I don't know, a couple $100. So that customer acquisition cost for that MSP is maybe $1,000. That's absolutely killer. The thing with canvassing is you put your destiny in there's like no better way to put your destiny in your own hands than close your laptop and get the hell out the door and go see people. It was always a stable rule for me, is like, if my pipeline is not full, damn, I just need to talk to more people. I just have to talk to more people. I got to go in person to talk to people. I got to go see them. Every single time, man, it is a debug, it is a fix for your sales pipeline. Now, the other thing that you should be doing 100% is the networking and the referral game. I was in all kinds of virtual business-to-business networking groups. Those were okay for getting connections to people who could lead me into accounts. 100% valid. You should be in virtual B2B networking groups. I have a collection of ones that work well for me. If you want to reach out, I can share them with you. But you should also 100% be in a very good and specific paid in-person networking group, referral based. This is the BNIs, these are the gold stars, etc. But before you roll your eyes again, I promise you, if you get in the right one, like, let me tell you one story on this. So I was in a paid networking group. It's called Am Spirit up in Columbus, Ohio. And I closed one of the bigger MRR deals out of that group. And the deal was sourced by a chimney sweeping company because she was at a baseball game with a friend of hers who happened to be the CFO for a large call center company in Columbus. And the CFO was complaining about their IT, and the chimney sweeper, the owner of the chimney sweeping company who was in my group, said, "Hey, I actually know someone. Why don't you check them out?" So they went on our website. It was one of the few inbound leads from our website I'd ever seen. Immediately called them, and a couple months later closed for 14, 15K a month. Now, if you're paying $300, $400 a quarter for an in-person networking group, and in 6 months you close a 15K MRR deal, what's the customer acquisition cost on that? Is it worth it to you? 100%. And those things start snowballing too. The other thing it helps your reps do is it helps them present, because in those groups you have to go up to the front and you have to present your solution, and it forces them to figure out the value proposition, their messaging, how do they talk about IT in a non-technical way to people who shouldn't even care about IT. It forces you to figure that out. So that in itself is a fantastic exercise for your outbound rep. So if I was going to hire an outbound rep, I would send them canvassing. I would get them in a paid referral-based networking group that has to have certain power partners in it. Go look through my videos about referral-based networking, because I actually tell you the exact power partners that you need in those groups to succeed. Get them in a networking group, start them on virtual networking groups. And the canvassing play, he has to be following up with everybody that he visits via phone and via email. Okay, I know it's not like epic what I'm saying, like, ooh, but dude, lead generation is not like epic and mystical. It just requires a system and it requires execution. So my play was the pop-in cold call, Pop-in, aka canvassing, followed up with cold calls to book an appointment. And I could cold call them and say, "Hey, I was just at your office. I dropped off my card. I have your card in my hand, and I want to introduce myself to you." It like instantly makes you more real. So much better than calling some rando list and trying to like maneuver people into sales calls with you, which I have a full play on doing straight cold calls to Zoom Info that we were able to get. Each rep was booking between 6 to 8 appointments a month out of that. I can share that play with you. Hit me up, dude. I'll give it to you for free. I don't even care. So phone is crucial. It's absolutely, dude. It's the most direct way to reach somebody. If you are not on the phone, if your reps are not on the phone or they're not talking to people in person, they're not making you money. I don't care if they're on LinkedIn. I don't care if they're doing videos and content and stuff. Until I'm proven otherwise, the bare fundamentals of getting on the phone and getting in front of people absolutely dominate lead gen success for MSPs, because MSPs are local, regional-based sales. When you're trying to close deals across the country, your conversion rates drop significantly. I mean, you still can, and that's fine, and you should, but like it's mostly like a regional, local play. All right. So moving on, I want to tell you a little bit about managing reps. Okay. So I have a lot of experience being over reps, managing them. And look, I'm still failing all the time, constantly failing. And every time you collide with failure, you come away with some learning things from it. But as long as you have a person with those particular traits in your outbound role, now it's up to managing them, because too many MSP owners, they think that they could get like an all-star, put them on an island, and that person's just going to succeed. Like, oh, you got to find a unicorn. It's like, dude, your chances of failure go up tremendously. You have to take personal responsibility for the outbound. Personal responsibility. That means getting in there and doing the calls if that person is failing. Like, I don't care if you suck at it. A leader steps in when things aren't going right. I have to tell myself this all the time. You're going to have to put the area back together and then back off again until that area is producing for you again. But a couple things with your hunters, with your outbound guys. Hunters with bad lists will fail. You have to have good enrichment. You know, I had Zoom info, which I think is pretty great. If anyone's on the call and they're like enrichment wizards, and might be like, oh, what an amateur talking about Zoom info. That's fine. But I did well with Zoom info. I do well with Apollo. But they have to have good targeted lists, and you have to have daily and weekly touch points with them. When I was working with a company fractionally managing some SDRs, we had throughout the week different types of meetings. We had a role-playing meeting. We had more of like a motivational session. We had like a metrics discussion. We had more of just like a weekly meeting, state of the union type meeting. And then we had another session where we did like a seminar, like a virtual seminar on a new topic, whether it was about, cold calling frameworks, viewpoint, mindset. And we allowed our reps to contribute to those sessions and lead sessions and have ownership and have responsibility for others. And you have to build a culture with your outbound reps. You can create competitions, but make sure it's a competition that like everyone can win and no one like feels like super isolated by it. But yeah, using bonuses and commissions to keep a person motivated, 100% should be done. As a matter of fact, at the end of my boot camp that I do for MSPs, we'll launch a production game that lasts for the next 90 days. And whoever gets the most XYZ gets an owner approved nice bonus. But, when you're managing these reps, as long as you're dealing with someone who is willing, okay, there's some people who just have a can't do attitude about anything. You can't really work with those people. There's some people who are just toxic and venomous, and you can't deal with those guys either. But even some of those guys you can get to produce in an outbound role. But you need to be motivating and inspiring them and helping them succeed, helping them understand their jobs better, using their personal, their why and their personal goals to keep them motivated. And you need to switch it up and keep it fresh, because particularly if you have appointment setters, it can get very stale. They're on the phone all day, man. You got to put yourself in their place. Would you want to be doing that? So you have to provide a lot of enrichment, and those teams can be very, very successful. They are a pretty high degree of management though. So, I know we're coming in on a landing. I have a friend he likes to say coming in on a landing. We're coming in on a landing in about a minute here. But if there's one thing that I want you to do, I want you to keep joining my YouTube lives. Okay. I want feedback. I want you guys to talk to me. Okay. And I want you to go and I want you to start canvassing, to go make yourself go out in the street, make yourself visit businesses, go in, give your business card. I promise you, you know what? I can actually promise you that if you do this with 15 businesses this week or next week, you will get a lead out of it. My actual conversions was 14 door visits equals 1 lead. One person who's shopping for an MSP, looking for a project, who you can actively engage in your sales pipeline. So go do that. Lastly, I have a business development bootcamp for MSPs. I go in person to your org and work with your team, and I teach you all these fundamentals. And the outcome of that is dramatically increased appointment setting rate and success with your business development. Week follow me on that. And then if you kind of want to start with maybe a lesser gradient engagement with me, I do introductory consulting engagements. I'll come in and do a diagnostic on your marketing and your business development, see where things stand, and help you write a bulletproof 1-year strategy, because whoever won a war without the proper strategy? So I'll help you write it with the next best move that you should make. And then my team can actually come in and help you execute. So thank you so much for coming today. I hope to see you next week. Have an awesome weekend.